Boom. We have RJ Padua. Is that how you say your name?
Padua.
Padua. Padua. I never say your last name, so I never know. Padua. In the house, and I'm pretty excited. Kind of nervous because we don't usually sit down and just like talk like this, but pretty excited to ask you some fitness questions. You want to talk about your background a little bit?
I want to know, are we allowed to swear on the show?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you want to swear, you can swear. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So I originally, when I graduated high school, had no idea what I was going to do. My dad had some back injuries and things like that, and so I seen kind of the pain and the struggle that he was going through. So I decided to go into the athletic therapy world, where I'd be able to take the stuff I'm learning and then be able to help my dad out. So that's kind of like how this whole thing started. So I got into that. The first year I didn't really take it serious. And then once I started to get more into the stuff that I really like, which is kind of like the anatomy, the physiology, the training aspect, that's when I really started. So I went from a C to an A student once I found the courses that I kind of really latched onto. Then I started doing the athletic therapy, and you know what? I kind of found that it wasn't really for me. I didn't want to be in a clinic. And so I thought that I would want to go into the professional sports world. And I actually got a week mentorship with Scott Livingston. He's the head, I don't know if he's still there, but I'm pretty sure he is, the head strength and conditioning guy for the Montreal Canadiens. And so I spent a week out in Montreal, kind of shadowed him and kind of see what his life was. And to be honest with you, it wasn't for me, right? Like that kind of like the big picture, that's kind of what we all dream of, is to go and work with the professionals and work with these guys. And, for me, it's all about the client, right? So the client that is motivated and the client that really, they're willing to learn and progress, right? And so with everything in my life, you can give me $1 million, but if I don't see any progression personally in my life or in the progression in the work that I'm doing, then it absolutely means nothing, and it gives me no purpose, right? I would rather, we play football, and I'd rather lose but know that we're progressing than to win and dominate and there's nothing more for us to take on or win kind of deal.
Right.
Then I went and did a little bit of work for a guy and in the city, and it kind of opened up my eyes that strength training and conditioning is more than just sets and reps. And he was doing fun things like jumping on boxes, doing hill sprints, things like that. And I said, man, this is the stuff I love. And so from there, I kind of went to a big box gym. And with the big box gym, it was great. I was grinding. I'd work at 5 a.m. and I'd have my last client at 11 p.m. Right. So I put those entrepreneur hours in, and I was, within 3 months, I was their top salesperson, top trainer. And, I've only been there for less than 6 months or whatever it was at the time. And then we started to bring in other programs, and I was trying to work with this big box gym, and they just didn't see it, as an entrepreneur. They just wanted to kind of be a boss of us. Mm-hmm. And, one of the things they said is that we'll never pay a trainer over a certain percentage. Oh. And I was bringing in a ton of business that would never be there had it not been for me. And these clients would not have been there, right? Like they would have never signed up at all had it not been with one of my programs. And it wasn't your typical program that every other trainer was doing in the city. And so, we battled back and forth. And it just came to the point where it's like, well, you know what? You guys aren't willing to move, and you guys are thinking so inside the box that I've got to take this program and I've got to move it somewhere else. And so from there, it was just like, I had a great product, passionate, and I grinded out the hours, and I always delivered 100% to my clients. And from there, the business grew. So I started with all hockey players, and I had maybe 1 or 2 regular clients on my own. And after that, we now see anywhere from 120 to 140 people a day. So I went from a clientele of less than 50 or 40, we'll say, mm-hmm. to now, 120 to 140 people per day.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's kind of, now we're here today. Yeah.
So I guess that's when you started No Limit Training?
Yeah. So originally it was actually supposed to be next level training.
Right. Okay.
And the reason why, and I actually have t-shirts for that, the reason why it was next level is because a lot of these hockey parents, they were always trying to get their kids to the next level. And I talked about progression. That's what really sparked me, was that these parents and these kids were coming to me and they just wanted it. And they every session, they're all battling each other and they're all looking forward to making it to that next level. But when you start to do research on business, you got to realize that you got to register a business name, and there was already somebody using that name, but we were already using the acronym NLT.
Right.
So that's when we went with No Limit Training. And so we've been in business, No Limit Training, since about 2007, and then I got incorporated in 2009.
Okay. So, can you talk about that a little bit? What has been one of the major obstacles in, I guess, starting your own business? Because like the fitness aspect is one thing, and there's a business aspect to it as well. Like, can you talk about that a little bit, and maybe some of the struggles or some stuff that you like, some advice you'd give to people who want to start something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So with the business, one of the key things that I did was I went and I just talked to everybody, right? I just spoke with everybody and kind of like laid out my goals to everybody. Like, I didn't know anything about coaching programs. I didn't really know anybody else in the business. And it's one of the thing about business is not a lot of guys are going to open up and give you tips.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's, they see you as a threat. Right.
Your competition.
Exactly. And so I wasn't able to get a lot of, tips from other trainers out there. And so what I did was I spoke to other, just guys that I see around the gym, and it didn't matter young or old. I talked to realtors. I talked to guys that worked at, 9 to 5 jobs, things like that. And from there, I met a guy at the gym, and he kind of was giving me business tips, because he used to, I think he used to work for IBM, and he helped them with, getting established and things like that. And so he's the one that kind of started me off with, the whole incorporation. And then I started speaking to accountants and financial planners, and, and I just asked the hard questions, and I wasn't shy, and I was very humble, and I always listened to these guys. And because, you could obviously, I'll listen to whoever will speak, but it's up to you to kind of take that knowledge, do your own research, and apply it to your life and your business. And so, that's kind of how we started with the whole business and getting incorporated and things like that. It's just me asking everybody questions and just, internet research and things like that. And looking back, I'm so glad that I started that early.
Wow. With like there's some questions I had in mind for you, and one of them was, if you're just starting out with like, okay, I want to get fit, or I have this kind of goal to get more healthy, like what would be the biggest, like what are some tips that you would give somebody who's just starting out?
So a client or an entrepreneur?
Client.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a client first, and it's just like business, is you need to go and look out the right people, right? Because, a business like mine, we're going to provide, my business only survives and thrives if our clients are happy and progressing, right? So if we're not getting you and delivering you the results and everything that you need, then you're not going to want to stay, right? And there's a lot of stuff that we give to our clients, and it keeps adding more and more. Like, I've added at least 6 different things to the business in the past year, right? Like, one of the things we have is an accountability coach. So this is something that we started for all our new clients, right? So whenever you raise a price, then you have to justify that, right? And so if you're just starting off, I always tell people to take small steps, right? I know it'd be like me as a business owner, and I just started off, and I'm like, hey, $1 million. Do you know what I mean? Because in order for you to get that $1 million, you've got to put $10 million worth of effort. You ever hear of Grant Cardone?
No.
So Grant Cardone's always talking about the 10x rule. So if you want to get a certain goal done, you've got to put in 10 times the effort, or you got to put in 10 times the work. So when clients come in, I don't even really like to talk about weight loss goals unless it's actually achievable, right? So a woman will come in and she might be, let's say, 20 pounds overweight, but her body fat is 50%. I'm not going to say, okay, well, let's set a goal for 20% body fat and let's get you to lose 30 to 40 pounds, because the pain and the struggles that you're going to have to go through immediately, if you want to get that done within a month, is you just won't be able to bear it. And it's not something that you could sustain.
Right.
So, a client losing, 1 to 2% of their body weight is such a big accomplishment. Like this past weekend, one of my older clients, he like you said, 5 years ago, he would have never gotten involved with a thing called Mud Race or Mud Hero. And the fact that he ran 6 kilometers and did it under an hour, like that's a huge success to him, right? Someone like, that's been running like me or, like one of my trainers, that's not as big of an accomplishment to them. But to him, he sees that as a huge target and a huge goal. And so for the clients that are just coming on, pick small ventures and reward yourself along the way. And don't see, if you go and have a breakdown and you go and have a bag of chips, don't think that you're a complete failure, because, it's every other step that you've made, and then you make one small step back, that has nothing to do with your future. You just accept it and move on.
As far as like advice for, I guess you could label them as hard gainers, what would you tell that, like, what would you tell them, or some advice that you would give them, or how would you, I guess, bring them along that process of them, like, if let's say that their goal is to gain more muscle, like how do you go through that kind of process?
So it's just like the weight loss, like there's no difference. It's just two opposite directions. So with the hard gainers, you still have to do all the steps. So, with any of our weight loss clients, we tell them that they got to monitor their food intake. The problem that we find with hard gainers is that they don't eat enough food, right? I know one of my close friends, he's like, I can never gain weight. And then I asked him what he ate today, and all he ate was a piece of pizza, right? But yet he's the guy that's the most active at the gym. Right? So he's working out 10 times harder than everybody else. He's out there running around, and, he's got a very active job. And so he's burning more calories than anybody else, but yet he's consuming less. And so that's why his body has a hard time to gain. Right? And then just like, any of the weight loss, it's about consistency. So you can't just work out, 1 to 2 times a week for a month, and then you take 3 weeks off. Right? Like your body needs that time to mature and develop, and your body's only going to, accept and change whatever you consistently give it.
How important is recovery in all this? Because like, I think people see, okay, there's a diet that people are going on or whatever, and then there's the exercise. But can you talk about how recovery is an important thing, or how do you go about doing that?
So this is something that I've dealt with throughout all of the years, where I've had, clients that were 100% dedicated on their nutrition, 110% dedicated on their training. But when your body is fatigued and broken down, you can actually do more harm and create, like, when you work out, it's a great thing, but you still create a negative environment in your body, because it's a breakdown, right? So it's like your car, driving your car, and you drive it really hard, you can't just put it in park, right? Like you need time to let it idle, let it kind of ramp down. And so that's the same thing with the body, is that in order for it to recover, the only time it recovers is when you're resting, right? And a lot of people, they try to train, 2 to 3 times a day, and then eventually, the first thing that goes is their mental. Right, is their mental abilities, that they start to feel that cloud, right? And they think maybe it's, caffeine or anything like that. And that's when a lot of people start to use performance supplements. Like, it doesn't have to be like a performance enhancer, but they could be taking pre-workouts or fat burners that kind of give them that energy, or they start, doubling up their dose of coffee just so that they can get through the workout. And what's happening is that you're just kind of pushing yourself beyond your limits, which will set you back even further than if you were training, training and taking breaks, like train, break, that kind of deal. So, for me right now, I know my body is in a state of negativity because I've just ran 6 kilometers that I'm not used to. And I played 2 football games. I got one today. So So this morning I made sure that I got like 8 to 9 hours guaranteed of sleep. Like I actually laid in bed a little bit longer just so that my body can get that recovery in, right? Because I got a game today. So recovery is one of the key factors that people need to focus on, and then it's going to come with proper nutrition as well.
With sleep and everything, like how, I guess, how much would you recommend to somebody who's like training really hard? Like, is 8 hours enough? Is 6 hours enough? How would you kind of gauge that?
Well, the studies out there are saying that the older you get, the less deep sleep you get, and the more deep sleep you get, the deeper your recovery. Okay, so even somebody that's not working out, if you have a stressful job or you're always on the go, your body is still working hard. So you need at least 6 is what they recommend, but I always aim for 8. And the reason why is because, if you look at your deep sleep cycle, you're only getting about 2 to 3 hours of deep sleep. So you need to increase the amount of length that you're getting, right? And I know some people are like, well, I can't get those hours in. And you know what? I honestly think that people can. I think they just don't take the time to schedule it in, right? So if you are supposed to be in bed by 11 and you wake up at 7, then that means that you need to shut down everything. Like, your brain's got to shut down. So that means that you write down the things that you need to get done for the next day, at 9:30, right? 9:45, you check your last email or whatever it is. 10 o'clock, the TV's off and you're in bed and you're resting, right? Because you're setting yourself up. But as soon as you have the TV going, your brain is still going, right? As soon as you start reading emails, then you start to get yourself all worked up. So you need that 1 hour of complete silence and doing nothing, laying in bed, speaking with your spouse or whatever it may be for that 1 hour. And then eventually you're just going to fall asleep.
Do you have like I guess a regimen that you do right before you sleep? Is that what you kind of do? Like you kind of just like turn everything off an hour before or whatever and try to shut everything down and then like cool down and head off into sleep? Or do you like kind of have like some kind of ritual that's very specific to how you get into that sleep mode?
So exactly that is 1 hour prior, I shut down all sources of social media. The phone is face down. Like I don't want to see that it's blinking and I got a message. The TV's off. I'm not catching up on my, the series that I'm watching at this time. Within that, like I said, right before that hour is I'm writing down the things that are on my mind, right? So if a client needs to get a t-shirt, then I'll just write that down into my to-do list for the next day. I always have my to-do list. I write down, 1 to 2 major things that I need to get done specifically for the business. And then I kind of, if I fall off my routine, then I'll rewrite my routine. So when I get up, the first 5 minutes are just dedicated to, being grateful. Right. So I always think of, at least 3 to 5 things that I'm just grateful. And it could be something small. I just look out the window and I'll look at the grass and, and I'm thankful for the grass. I'll look at the sunlight and I'm thankful for the sunlight. And I think when people get up, the habits that they develop first thing in the morning as well are just as critical before they go to bed, because when they get up, a lot of people, the first thing they do is they reach for their phone. And then they're checking Facebook and they're checking texts and they're checking Instagram. And I used to be one of those people until I actually heard about this. And what it does, it puts your mindset into a state of frustration and a state of scramble. So I'm getting, 3 texts from a client, or I'm getting, 4 emails about this new program. And, I've got every one of my staff messaging me about, one of their, something that they need done or something that's going on. And right away, my brain is all frazzled. So I can't get the major things that I need to do right away. And so a lot of times I won't check my emails, Facebook, anything like that until at least an hour from when I got up. So the first 5 minutes are dedicated to being grateful. And then I spend that hour in education. And a lot of it, I used to do a lot of like kind of, business books and things like that. But then I felt that it was also putting me too focused on dollars in business.
Right.
And so now I actually spend more time on spiritual. It's like spiritual leadership, more about, having a positive mindset, how you can be better for people. I get that done right away. And then after that, I go into the business book. And then I start answering emails.
What books do you read? Like what kind of book? Like well, not what kind of books, like what books specifically?
Yeah. So right now, I do a lot of stuff from Pastor Leon. So he's the pastor at Springs Church. So I'll buy a lot of his audiobooks, and then I'll start my day off with that because it's kind of got the biblical sense and it's kind of give you in the grand scheme of things. Right now, I'm finishing up a book called The 17 Laws of Teamwork by John Maxwell, and I just finished The 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss.
Ooh, yeah, Tim Ferriss is a pretty cool dude. What's your stance on overtraining, and like, I guess what's your definition of that, and like, what do you think about people saying, "Oh, you're overtraining if you're doing this or that," or
I 100% believe in overtraining, and I've done it, and I still sometimes find myself doing it. And once you get into that routine of going to the gym, and I hear this a lot about like people saying that they're going, no matter what they're going. So Saturday, right? Like you worked out hard Monday to Friday, and then you get up Saturday, and because it's part of your routine, that you go out and you got to lift the heavy weights, and there's no like easy workouts. It's always hard, and so what happens is these guys are the first ones. Like I said, their mindset starts to change because their mind is telling them to slow down. That's the first thing that's going to happen, is your mind is going to say you need to slow down. Second is your body, right? So then your body's going to say I'm exhausted. So it's like the first thing that a lot of people do is they reach for caffeine, right? And so they're kind of getting that little bit of boost, but really like putting caffeine in your body. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with a little bit of caffeine, but I just had a discussion with a friend of mine, and he was doing one large cup of coffee, then not 8 to 9 espressos throughout the day.
well,
And he's a teacher. And so that means he's only working from 9 to 3. Do you know what I mean? Like he doesn't have a super stretched out day like an entrepreneur would. And he did that every single day. And so, that's the second thing to go, right? The body's going to say, I'm tired, I'm fatigued, I just want to lay in bed. And those are the guys that hit snooze until they got to get up, right? And then the third thing that's going to happen is your body will get hurt, right? So that's when you start to notice these little injuries. And you know what? I'm finding that younger, especially, like hockey's huge in Winnipeg, right? Like there's no other sport that you get as much participation and involvement with. And I'm finding that these kids are coming in at 12 to 13 with like hip flexor injuries and all these like little injuries that you shouldn't have because your body's so flexible and pliable at that age. But because you're overtraining and you're on the ice all the time and you're doing these camps and this and that, and your parents are pushing you and you're going for runs and a lot of people, they see that, as Crosby does it, right? But they don't know that Crosby has the massage therapist. The Crosby's eating the proper nutrition. And I guarantee you somebody's out there telling Crosby that he needs to take a day off if he needs to take a day off. And so that's what starts to happen. So the third level is injuries. And they're usually like some kind of like small injury at first that transforms into a big injury.
okay, wow. So with like injuries, like how do you work around that when you have like a client who says, okay, my left shoulder's kind of bad, like do you just like adjust the workouts, and how do you work around that?
So if we have a client that is injured, which is different than somebody having a sore shoulder, right? So an injured means like, there's like some kind of impingement. If it's something that we feel that can't be worked out, like if it was just they slept wrong or they got a minor tweak, then we could work around that and we'll make some adjustments. And then if it doesn't heal within 1 to 2 weeks, that's when we suggest for them to go see somebody that's specific on the therapy aspect. Because training, being a trainer and being a therapist are two separate things, right? It's just like it's just like McDonald's and Burger King. They both sell burgers, but they're two different businesses, right? And so you got to go and see that specialist to get that shoulder fixed. And then so within our staff, we have therapists, and we work directly with the therapist to make sure that we're not overstepping what they're doing, right? But you can still stay active. We just need to know what type of modifications we need to make so that this injury doesn't get any worse. Okay. But at the same time, you need to work with that individual. And sometimes, and a lot of clients, they with the training, they're like, well, I'm already paying for the training. Why would I go see a therapist? It's like, well, you have an injury that happened, maybe not so much with us, right? But it could have been something that you came in with, right? Like if a guy's playing recreational hockey, right? He gets hit into the boards by accident, hurts his shoulder. Well, that had nothing to do with us. But we can still work with you on the training aspect, but you need to see a therapist to get that shoulder fixed. So they're two separate things.
Okay. What's like the number one mistake people, I guess, commit when they're just starting out?
The number one thing that people make the mistake of is they get complacent. So a lot of people think, they have a goal, right? And they start to think that, like this is all I need, right? So if I come to the gym, do my workout 3 times a week, that I'm going to be able to go on the weekends, go to the lake, eat chips, hummus, it maybe not be bad food, but it's still more calories than you're actually burning during the week. And so they think that, because they're just working with the trainer, that we don't need to actually have any other, like there's no other aspects of my life that need to be stepped up as well, right? So if you have a goal, just because you're working out doesn't mean that you should be cutting sleep, right? That means that you should be increasing sleep, right? If you're just starting off, the number one thing is that you need to pay attention to what we do. So we have like a Facebook group and we send out tons of emails when you first sign up with tips. You need to actually start to apply these tips into your life, and you need to start asking questions, right? Because people are scared, right? If you're on your own, then you're just kind of like, you're looking for information that you're just trying to justify your own.
Right.
Right.
It's like there's a bias.
Yeah. And so you're like looking for an answer, but you only want to find the answer that
will suit you.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And so when you work directly with a trainer, like with our company, we're going to tell you the hard fact about it, right? And we're also going to steer you in the right direction because we've already done the research. We've already got the experience with this, and we've seen many people that have wanted to lose, 10 pounds, right? And we've seen tons of people that were in your similar situation. They may not be exactly like you, but they've been in a situation similar to you.
What do you think of, I guess it's still a trend, but the CrossFit, what do you think about that? I just watched this, I guess it's like a documentary on Netflix, The Fittest on Earth, and it's basically the CrossFit games, and they have these competitions and stuff. But like as a whole, what do you think about CrossFit and how they do things?
I haven't personally done CrossFit, and I've watched a little bit of it, and I think it's awesome. I think it's an alternative to whatever it is that you want to do. So, with our clients, we have 2 types of people that we really like to focus on. One is fat loss, and the 2 is muscle building. But, the muscle building that we do isn't for guys that want to get on and compete, right? So there's a difference. We got guys that want to look good, feel good, but also be able to function, right? And then we got women that want to look good, feel good, but they also want to be able to function. Like this Mud Hero event was something that, was a good stepping stone for a lot of people, because not only are they training in the gym and they're getting to their weight loss goals or whatever it may be, but they're also in a state where they can go out and run 6 kilometers, right? Like we had a woman and she's in her 60s and she came out and ran it. Do you know what I mean? And so that for her, she may not be focused on the weight loss, but she's focused on the function. And so when it comes to CrossFit, I think CrossFit is great. I mean, it's kind of like playing on a team. And the thing about CrossFit, it's all about performance, right? So for us, it doesn't matter how much you lift. It just matters about how you're lifting it, and then how are we stringing it together with other exercises that are going to be catered to whatever your goals are, right? Whereas they want to see, how fast can you run? How much can you lift over your head, right? And then they want to put you into a competition against somebody else, and then you guys compete of who can lift more. So for them, it's not about, they're not about weight loss. Or any kind of like, they're more so focused on performance. So for me, I'm not against CrossFit. I think it's just another alternative means of exercise.
Yeah.
It's just whatever people feel that they can latch onto that's going to make them, to keep them fit, right? Like some people like running and they have running clubs. And then people like ask me, well, is that the best thing for weight loss? I'll say no. Is it great for fitness? Absolutely, right? Does the person love it? Then do it. But if you hate running, then maybe you should try CrossFit. And if you don't want to do the performance, then come and try NLT, right? It's all one, you know what I mean? Just like the massage therapist, chiropractor, physio, athletic therapist, we're all kind of like in the same kind of boat where we're focused on just client well-being, right? So if that's where you want to go with your fitness, then I say try it. I'm not against it. And people would, they joke about it and, talk about the injuries and things like that. And me personally, I wouldn't even try to teach my clients any of that stuff because of the fact that because of the fact that takes years of practice and it takes years of repetition. So if you got a client that's in there and they're trying to do fat loss and, let's say CrossFit is or one of these CrossFit guys are advertising that they specialize in fat loss, but yet they're teaching clean and snatches. Well, it's like, well, is that really the best method for that client? Or are you just trying to get a client to pay your bills? Right? And so I know what my business specializes in. The question is, do you? Right? And so if you got somebody that's in there and, he's a former athlete and he wants to keep in that competitive nature and he wants to be the fittest man in the world, according to CrossFit, then I'm like, okay, then go and do that. Right? But that is your goal. If you're trying to lose weight and you're trying to learn a technique that takes, let's say 2 years and, 5,000 hours of practice, and that's all you did, well, you're not going to lose any weight.
A lot of dancers obviously listen to this podcast, but how would you go about, like, if a dancer came up to you and said, okay, I want to lose some weight, but I still want to, be able to practice dance and, still go hard in practices for dance. What's some advice you could kind of give them when they're trying to go about doing that?
So, it's all about balance with that, right? So I know balance is one of the toughest things to get, but when it comes to the training, it comes to your dancing. So it's just like any athlete. So if you have a major dance that you got coming up, then we need to peak you for that dance. So let's say we have a 3-month mark, right? You got this big battle coming up in 3 months. Initially I want you to focus more on the training where we get you more conditioned, we get you more explosive, we get you better, faster feet and that kind of stuff where you're getting more explosive. And then eventually we just kind of, taper it off. So you would go from more training, heavy training in the first month to month and a half to switching it up to more dance and movement selection later on, right? And so like when we work with our hockey players, they come to us in May. And initially the May programs are all about just size and strength because when you're in season, it's hard to build those things up because your body's already broken down from playing hockey. So it's just like dance, right? If you're consistently dancing throughout the year, then what I would tell you is that you need to, schedule that you're, let's say twice a week, you're doing a heavy dance, and then once a week you're doing a light dance, and then you come and work out 2 times a week heavy, and then do a light workout, right? A third time, because we're talking about that overtraining, right? So if you train 5 days a week with us, and you went hard 5 days a week with us, and then you're trying to dance 5 days a week with us, or on your own, and you're trying to, your body, your batteries aren't fully charged. Right? So if you're working out with us, we can deplete your batteries down to 50%. Then if you're doing dance after that and you're doing a 2-hour dance session, that can deplete you down to 0. So, and if you're doing it again the next day, your batteries might only get charged to 80%. And so let's say your next workout, you give it your all again, we drain 50, dance drains another 50, now you're in the negative. So now you've got to really focus on, okay, I need 10 hours of sleep. I need to, up the amount of greens that I'm taking in my life. I need to cut out the caffeine and increase the water. You know what I mean? There's just so much things. But again, you do that 5 days a week, and then let's say you work weekends, right? Like everything all adds up. And so you're always one step behind now. So when it comes to your competition or your dance, if you're not fully recovered, then you're going to go in there being one step behind your competitor.
Okay. Balance. Yeah. As far as juicing goes, like juicing as far as like, like you got carrots and stuff, and you like put them in a juicer and get juice. Like not, I don't mean juicing as in like steroids, but yeah, like what do you think about juicing? Because I think there's a documentary, Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead,
Right.
and then this guy goes on this juicing cleanse type thing, and then what do you think about that?
Juicing in general, like just yesterday, I had, in between my second and third game, I had a booster juice green shot, and what it does, it alkalines the body. So if you're juicing is primarily greens and the more nutrient dense vegetables, if you're throwing in carrots and you're throwing in raspberries and you're throwing in blueberries, and people think that if I drink these smoothies that are fruit, that that could be the staple of my diet. Anytime you take in any liquid, first of all, there's sensors in your stomach that don't get hit that tell you that you're full. So if you're just drinking liquids all day, you may lose weight, but you're going to be hungry all day, right? Because there's nothing that's filling in your stomach. Second, if these smoothies that you're drinking, I love them, right? But I also know that regardless of how you look at it, there's still sugars.
Yeah.
Right. And so if you're not utilizing those sugars, meaning that if you're not training, right, like a lot of people are drinking these smoothies and they've got 96 grams of carbs in them, right? And carbohydrates, their primary use is for short bursts of energy. So if you wake up, drive to work, sit at your desk, go home, watch TV, you don't even, a lot of people don't even need 100 grams of carbs because their whole day is like in idle. Right. There's no hard bursts of energy, right? And so they'll juice 2 to 3 times a day, and then they think that they're super healthy, but really it's, you're just taking in foods that aren't filling your stomach, and you're taking in a ton of sugar.
Okay, so it's I guess it's primarily used for greens, right?
Yeah, like if you're getting all greens and you're taking a shot of like, a lot of my clients, I tell them to blend up kale, spinach in water with a bit of lemon juice. It's probably the worst thing you'll ever drink, but it's literally it's
tasty.
It's literally putting that burst of what's called alkaline or positivity in your body. Right. If you put that first thing in your body, or a lot of people, first thing they do is they have the coffee being made.
Yeah.
Whereas if you look on the pH scale, coffee is like down there with battery acid as for acidity.
Yep.
Right. And
science.
Yeah. And disease only thrives in acidic environments. Right. So cancer only survives in an acidic environment. And so if you're not sleeping, eating too much red meat, eating a lot of processed foods, and you're drinking more coffee, which everybody does. Well, maybe not everybody, but the majority of people are drinking more coffee than they are water, then you're in that acidic environment. So if you were to start your day off with, a juice blast where, you put the raspberries or blueberries in there for taste, but the staple of it is like a dark green, then you're going to be in a positive state.
Okay. Okay. Can you talk about this thing that I think it's getting kind of big now, the ketogenic diet, and I guess it puts your body in ketosis and stuff like that? Because it's something that I've been curious about. But what are the benefits for that? And is it like who's that particularly right for? Like as far as like a specific person or what their goal is?
You know what? I used to be all about the ketogenic diet, and I've done keto. And I felt, like my body was always a furnace, and I felt that it was always burning fat. And that's kind of what they want the ketogenesis to be, is that where your body, instead of it primarily burning sugars, like if you think about a daily intake, everything we eat is some type of sugar. Okay. Now, when I say sugar, it's glucose. Okay. So it could be bread, it could be potatoes, it could be rice, right? And so we were taught the myth that you should eat every 2 hours, right? I always tell my clients, you should do some intermittent fasting, right? And then, the first thing you want to do is, like I said, you either put that alkaline in your body, or you start your day off in a protein state, protein or fat, because protein and fat, it's going to keep you fuller and longer. And that's what they're trying to do with the ketogenesis, is that, with the ketogenesis, it takes longer to break down, right? So proteins and fats take longer for your body to break down. And so it's going to keep you fuller longer while it's meeting your macronutrients. But, I've changed my mindset on all of that. And again, I try to match my carbohydrate intake based around my daily intake, right? And so the only way you would do that is you would start to record your food, things like MyFitnessPal. And then I try to go into the cleaner carbohydrates, meaning that I obviously don't eat any of the processed foods. I still eat bread, right? Like I had a piece of bread this morning, but I had a better bread. I had spelt bread, right? And the ketogenesis, it will work. I guarantee you it will work. But again, is it sustainable? And so for our clients, they can go to a family barbecue, right? And their whole ketogenesis is like completely gone, right? So for somebody to stay on ketogenesis, they have to have that really strong, type A personality, meaning that like I do this no matter what, right? And so it's good, and I put clients on it that can do it, but is it sustainable? I personally don't think it is.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because it seems like a lot of work just to kind of like cut down a lot on carbs, right?
Yeah, and it's a difference between, do you want to look good on the beach, and do you want to look good in front of 10 judges and you're a bodybuilder, right? So those guys, they'll cut their carbs completely off and they'll go into ketogenesis because they need to drop down to 5% body fat. Whereas, the most people in our realm, if we can get our guys to about 15, 20%, where you have a visual ab line and your chest is bigger than your stomach, that's where guys are happy with, right? So for the clientele that we have, they want to cut down to a healthy body fat where they feel good about themselves. But with the guys that are doing, the hardcore ketogenesis, they want to cut down to a point where you can't see an ounce of fat, right? They want to be photo shoot ready. Right. But again, you look at a lot of these bodybuilders and they'll do things like that, those extreme diets. And then afterwards, you see them after the stage and they won't, like, they're hiding, right? Like you don't see all the pictures on Instagram anymore because they don't look like that. They look good for that, day. And then after that, it's all gone.
They get rehydrated and like blow up or something.
Yeah. And they start to put carbs back into them because that's what's all around us. Right. And it's unfortunate that, that's the marketing, but carbohydrates are such a cheap source of fuel, and they're highly addictive. And so, you turn on the TV and, the first thing that comes up is a Wendy's commercial, right? Or a Dairy Queen Blizzard. Like, they're not advertising, come check out our rotisserie chickens. You know what I mean? Right? They're advertising the pizzas. They're advertising, you know what I mean? Like the stuff
pizza's
that
always up there.
Yeah. And so, that's the thing, is that these guys, they know they have a really strong product. And so we get sucked into that. And it's up to us as trainers and what we've established with our, fitness family is that, you can afford to have that food. Right? It's just when it becomes the staple of your food, of your nutrition, that's when you're going to fail. Because if I'm just booster juicing and subweighing, and then at dinner I'm going out for, like pizza, right? Yeah. And it's like, okay, well, what is the staple of your diet? And it's like, well, those are all fast acting carbohydrates that are dense calories. There's no way in a workout that I can make you work that off. And even if we did, you would not be here tomorrow, and you absolutely would not be here next month, because we're not going to be able to outrun your poor diet.
Yeah. What are some misconceptions that, like common misconceptions that people have about the fitness field, I guess, that you've found over the years?
Misconceptions. So the biggest,
like myths and like stuff that like, okay, that's like it's not accurate or factual.
Okay.
But people still believe that it's true.
Right. So women, this is a big one. Women think that if they lift weights, they're going to bulk up, right? And so, like you talked about those hard gainers, right? Mm-hmm. And you yourself, that if you lift weights, you don't immediately become jacked, right?
No.
Okay.
And I'm a guy. Okay?
Yeah. And it takes time, right? And so, women think that if they even touch a heavyweight, that they're going to get super big arms and traps and pecs and things like that.
Look like Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, they think they're going to look like Brock Lesnar, where it's like, me who works out, 3 to 5 days a week, like I can't even imagine that I would ever look like Brock Lesnar, right? Another big misconception of what I talked about already is that people think that if they work out that they could, eat whatever they want, right? And it's just like that theory is like, just because you have a job, you think you could spend whatever you want. It's like, well, no. If you don't make the money, you can't spend it.
Yeah.
Right? What's another myth? Going back to the women scared to put on muscle. They think that if they put on muscle that, again, they're going to get bulky, but 5 pounds of muscle versus 5 pounds of fat is a complete different. You can't turn fat into muscle and muscle into fat. They're two separate things. Okay. And so 1 pound of muscle burns 30 calories per hour. So just having 1 pound of muscle, you're going to burn 30 calories per hour. Whereas if you have 1 pound of fat, it only takes 3. So the more muscle you have, the more calories that you're going to burn per hour. And then also you could look at that as the more calories I can eat.
Right. Right. Oh, damn. See, this is some good stuff, man. This is some good stuff. That's why I wanted you on the podcast. It's because like you have all this stuff. I'm firing like all these questions at you, so then people can kind of know and have like a source where like, okay, yeah, like because sometimes it's hard to find legit people who are up on their knowledge on a certain field. And like, how long has No Limit Training been around? Like, how long have you been doing this?
So actually, 3 of my hockey players that I started No Limit Training with, they're 25 now, and they started with me when they're 15. So I've been next level NLT whatever for 10 years, but I've also been training for 12.
Yeah, and that's like, I mean, that kind of experience is very, I guess, rare to come by, especially now with people like, I guess, a bit of a trend is like personal trainers popping up out of nowhere and like they get certified with this, like, I guess it's, I don't know, some kind of like really quick course and they just kind of hop into it like that. How do you feel about those people who are just kind of like coming about and just trying to get into this field and stuff like that? Is there some stuff where you're like, I don't know about this person training another person or something like that?
You know what? I always feel it just comes down to the individual, right? And it comes down to their mindset and how they carry themselves personally, right? So, with me, it started with one client. And so everything I did was, everything I learned to help that client reach their goal, I applied that and I made it into a system to do it to another client. And you just got to continuously learn. So, guys that are just coming into this industry and they think that, just because they finished a course or they're certified and, they've got a PhD in personal training, and then, they think that they could come in here and they're going to be, the number one trainer. It doesn't work that way because, a lot of it comes down to, exactly like what you said, like how much experience do you have, right? So you could learn everything you want about the human body, but if you don't know how to apply that into the client, then it means absolutely nothing.
As far as supplements go, because okay, let's say a person they're exercising right, they're recovering right, all good, their nutrition is like all good. How do you go forth in recommending certain supplements to them depending on their goal? Like, let's say it's somebody who wants to cut down on just body fat.
So when anybody's starting off, we don't put them on any supplements because the first thing we want to do is we want to establish good behaviors. We want to establish good routines. And so we don't want to just pump them full of supplements and, that's what they become reliant on, because for us, it's all about long-term results, not just like what can we do in the next 30 days to get you, 10 pounds lighter, right? So we're doing a challenge right now. It's a 6-week challenge. And the very first week that we did, all we told them to do is start monitoring their food. They had to monitor their food. They have to start recording and journaling what they're eating, right? And so now they know exactly how many calories and from what type of calories they're consuming, right? And then, the MyFitnessPal, it actually, you can set your parameters of how much carbs, how much protein, how much fat you want. And so, people are actually getting an eye opener to seeing that, 90% of their calories are coming from carbohydrates, or 90% of their calories are coming from fats, or whatever it may be. And so, when it comes to supplements, we always want them to work through it themselves and naturally. After that, like protein to me is not really it's a supplement, but it doesn't really do anything like, if you were to take a fat burner. So protein is just is meant to really help you to kind of fill a void, right? So if you're on the go, like I'm on the go all the time, I always have protein powder with me because it's easy to, it's always on me, and I can take it at any time. And so I'll have a protein shake. But do I think that it's going to get me huge or it's going to make me lose weight? Absolutely not, right? Some of the other supplements that we recommend are more to do with your health. So, fish oils, I'll take 3 to 5 fish oils a day. And that's really just to create that alkaline environment, but it's also meant to help lubricate the joints. And because I play a lot of football, plus I do a lot of training, I'm trying to keep everything glued together, right? But after that, there isn't too many supplements that we recommend. We give out the information and we try to find the supplements that are actually effective out there. And then we give information to the clients, and then we kind of leave it up to them if they want to take it. But as long as they understand the end game with it, and it's all about longevity. So if you're taking like a pre-workout, it's like, well, if you take pre-workout straight for a month, that one scoop of pre-workout no longer works, right? So now you're taking 2, and then it's 3, and then you're looking for the next you know what I mean? And then it's just like, it becomes an endless cycle of how can I get more stimulants in me?
Yeah, and I feel like you could get lost in that too, like, oh, taking BCAAs and all this, like, all this kind of stuff. And it seems like sometimes a really big maze to, like, oh shoot, there's all this stuff. Should I be taking this? Should I be taking that? Like, and it's great that you guys provide that information, and they're like, okay, it's up to you guys if you want to take this, but you should know what the end result's going to be.
Right. And if your nutrition is already balanced, so if you're doing your green shots, or you don't even have to do the green shots, but you can do, you have your dark leafy green vegetables at least twice a day, and then you're getting good sources of protein, meaning like, like chicken, fish, meat, that kind of stuff. And even like if you look at the breakdown of a protein shake, it has all the amino acids that you need. So why do I need to take these branch chain amino acids when they're already in my protein shakes? And even if you go further, they're already in my chicken breast, right? So a lot of these supplements are created, and if you look on the bottle, you see this guy who's 265% body fat, and he's got 250 pounds of muscle on, where he's 10% everything else, and he's all muscle. Well, maybe those supplements are designed for those types of people, where the guy takes a step, that's detrimental to him being on stage and winning, the Arnold Classic or something like that. Maybe those guys that are so muscle bound, and because your body doesn't want to carry any unnecessary weight or any unnecessary muscle, and that's why it's easy to lose your muscle and gain fat, because your body wants to do the very minimalist, right? So
it's super efficient, right?
Yes, your body is super efficient. And so if you're carrying around, 250 pounds of muscle, then yeah, you probably need those BCAs. You probably need to eat 30 chicken thighs a day. Like you know what I mean? Like there's just
The Rock's diet.
yeah, like the Rock, right? But again, those guys are taking all the other kind of supplements that allow them to get to that point. Whereas the average person does not need to be spending all that money. They should be spending their money on not so much their money, but they should be buying food, and more so they should be preparing their day. And so these supplements really are for people that aren't prepared.
Can you speak about being an entrepreneur? And because I see you as a successful guy with like NLT and all that stuff, and I'm sure there's people who kind of look up to you and say, "Oh, I want to be kind of like that. I want to, start a business," and and it's clear to see that you're pretty passionate about what you do, and people want to kind of aspire to that. With being an entrepreneur, like how how is that? If I know what I'm trying to say, but like, how is that something that you can kind of like, because obviously you see the benefits of it. Like, how's that? How can you share that with other people as far as people who want to be like, okay, I want to do something like that.
So for people that want to start a business, the number one thing you got to realize is that, it really started, like my business really started to explode 3 years ago. And that's when I really took a different mindset. I wasn't going out late anymore. I wasn't, sleeping in right till I had to get to the work, you know what I mean, to the client. And it was really education that kind of brought me to the next level. And so now I'm at a point in the business where I don't want people to work for me. I want people to work with me. And so I create a team and I always ask these guys, what is it that you want to do? Like, let's get rid of everything you don't want to do so that you can just specialize in the things that you want to do really well. So I'm trying to create that dream job for them so that they stay longer with me. And if my staff are happy, then it's going to translate into our clients. And you've seen all our trainers, and they come in, and we have trainers that work, part-time trainers that work full-time during the day. They make less being a trainer with me, but they want more hours with me, and they want to cut back hours with their regular job. And that's because they're doing something that they're passionate about. And so what I would tell somebody that's just starting off is that you've got to come in with the right mindset, and you have to be willing to work. And you have to start educating yourself in it. Just because you did the weekend course or just because you got your PhD in training means nothing if you're not willing to work. And a lot of these guys think that they come into this industry and, they could have done a bodybuilding show or, like they've got all the degrees in that. And so that they're guaranteed work. Being humble is key, is that, you got to understand that you've got to really sell yourself, and then you've got to create value in your client's life. If you can't create, look, we talked about the 10x value in somebody's life, they're not going to pay you what you think you deserve. You need to give, if you're charging $30, then you need to give them $300 worth of value every session, right? But if you're coming in, and I see this a lot with these trainers, and they're working with their clients, and they have let's say 250 pound 30-year-old woman doing lat pull downs, right? Or doing a basic bodybuilding exercise, and they're sitting there and they're talking with them. It's like, well, are you actually creating value in their life, or are you just there to be a friend? Because you're not being a great trainer by not delivering them the stuff that they need in order for them to succeed. So they're going to lose clients that way, right? You can't train your clients how you train yourself. You have to think, right? If I go into a business meeting, right, and I'm trying to connect with the new business partner, I'm going to know everything about that person coming into that meeting before I actually have that meeting. And so it's just like your client, you have to listen, right? And if you're just starting off, you need to make one client your number one client, and then, share their success along the way and get them success and do everything you can to get them success. This is not your part-time job. And that's what a lot of these guys come into this training thing as well, is that they're working their regular job, but they're trying, their goal is to be this personal trainer, but because they're making a little bit more money at their other job, everything is dedicated to that mindless work, right? And this personal training businesses is very hard to get into, right? And so what happens is that people just give up. It's just like you see a ton of entrepreneurs, they take on all these new roles and they want to jump into this business and that. And then when it doesn't go their way, the first thing they do is they just kind of put it on the back burner and they quit. Right. And that's what I see a lot of these guys. Oh, this guy's a trainer. Oh, awesome. Good for him. Right. And then, month later, my clients suck. I can't get any clients and this CrossFit stuff's killing me. And it's like, well, no, it's not any of that other stuff. It's you. You suck because you're not putting the effort into your client to get better.
That's very well put. Wow. So you guys hear that? Yeah. Right there. So I want to thank you for coming on the podcast. Is there any questions you have for me? I've been straight like barraging you with like like all these questions, like boom, 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 and then the answer coming. I'm like, oh, that's a good answer. That's a good answer. So this has been like more like the most formal, I guess, episode recently. So like, yeah, is there anything you want to mention? You have questions for me, or you want to promote anything?
Um, so you're a guy that, and I'm gonna kind of put you on the spot here.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
So you kind of come and go, right? So you come, you dominate, and then you go, right? And so what is it that you would recommend to someone that's exactly in your position, where you come and you know it's good for you and you continue to stay, but then you'll disappear for a week or two?
Mm-hmm.
So what is it that you would tell somebody that's in your exact situation? I don't know what it is, whether it be time or whether it be dedication. What is it that you would tell somebody that is exactly like you, that might be in my industry, or sorry, in my clientele? What would you recommend to them, and how would you get them to stay full time?
That's a really good question. That's actually a really smart question too. I would say you would have to have your goal in front of you like the whole time. Like write it down, and then keep that thing in front of your face like the whole day. Because one thing that I found is that things come up in life, and they always do. Like it's not a good excuse at all. But like maybe you're working your day job, and then after your day job, you're like, oh, I'm tired. I'm tired. I don't want to go to the gym. I just want to like sit here and just like chill out. And I think you have to put what you want, like your long-term goal has to be something you think about, and it has to be bigger than what you want at that moment. So like if I'm sitting, let's say I finished work, I got home, I'm sitting on the couch, and I'm like, right at that moment, I want to just rest. I don't want to do anything. I just want to watch TV or whatever. But then my long-term goal, my real long-term goal is, okay, I want to get fit and be able to perform at a level with dance, like at a high level.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my long-term goal, but that's not in front of me right at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So what what I'm trying to learn right now is to keep that long-term goal right in front of me, and okay, this is the vision that I'm trying to attain for the long term. And I know if I don't go, I'll regret it later. I'll be like, oh, that's another day I didn't go. And then it's putting myself down, and then like it's like a cycle of failure.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing with the cycle of failure is that you can reverse that and go into a cycle of success,
Mm-hmm.
which I've found too. Like, I mean, there's little like stints or sprints or whatever, certain periods of time where I'm like, okay, I'm committed to this goal, and I'm going for a while, and then there'll be the complete opposite. The flip side, it's like, oh, okay, I'm not doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a learning process, and part of the thing is that I don't want to give up on the whole fitness aspect. Like, I don't want to be like, okay, I did it for like 3-4 years,
Mm-hmm.
and okay, nothing's happened. But I believe that there's a law of success where if you consistently go and like if you just persevere, there's certain perseverance that you have to succeed at something. So I don't think that necessarily somebody who's like inconsistent can not be consistent in the future. Like, you don't have to be, your past doesn't have to dictate your future. You just need the right information, and you need to know yourself and figure out how you can, I guess, hack your own mind to do the things that you want to do and get to the goals that you want to get to. So that's how I feel about it. I think, yeah, that's it. Like, you gotta know what your vision is and keep that in front of you, the long-term vision, rather than short-term, I guess, satisfaction.
Mm-hmm. I think it comes down, like what I'm hearing from you is that you just need to have that routine, right? So you always schedule in, so if you get off at 4:30 and the session's at 5:30, then you need to start penciling that in. You need to start seeing it in front of you, like with your goals. With me, I have every day in my calendar on my phone, I have a tab called knowledge. And so the knowledge tab is where I go in and I put in like a lesson that I learned for the day. And so when it comes to the training aspect, people just need to, have that scheduled in, pencil in that time, because, if you don't schedule your day, what do they always say? Failure to plan is planning to fail.
Yeah.
Right. And so if you don't plan for you didn't bring your gym stuff, you didn't bring your lunch that day, you're already planning to fail because, you know what I mean? You didn't take those steps. Right. So if somebody schedules in 5:30 appointment, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, it's sitting there on their phone or it's right in front of their calendar. They have their gym stuff in the car. They're already setting themselves up to succeed. But as soon as you have to go home and you hit the couch, you've already kind of gotten your brain into scatter mode. And now it's like the easiest way out is to sit on the couch and eat chips.
Yeah.
Right? So it's easy to fail and you're only failing yourself. It's hard to plan until you start to become so, you get right into that routine that nothing is kind of like swerving you left or swerving you right. You're always heading down the straight path.
Yeah, and I think at a certain point there's a battle in your own mind of what should I do now, like what's most convenient or whatever.
Right.
And I think people have to remember, and I'm saying this to myself too, is that success isn't convenient. Like none of that is convenient. Like when you were starting out, you said you were working like
all day.
all day, and that's not convenient, right? But I mean, we'll look at where you're at right now, and that's like the long-term goal, right?
Exactly.
So I feel that that's how you should go about it. You should have that vision. You should know what your tendencies are, and then learn from them. And if you fall down, like if you fail, like I think you should obviously get back up and try it again and like tweak some things. I think you learn so much from failing that you should take those lessons going forward. So I'm kind of glad you asked that question. I know that was directed straight at me, so I'm like, I'll just answer it like that. But yeah, I appreciate that. And it takes a certain kind of character to bring about those kinds of questions, and because it's going to benefit the person you're asking.
Right.
So I got to give a shout out to Canadian Footwear. If you're trying to get some stuff for your feet, come there because they're awesome. Anything you want to promote? Anything coming up? Where can people find you?
They can find us at www.nolimittraining.com. That's our direct website. And we post a lot of great stuff on Facebook. Our main account is our Instagram account, which is at NLT204. And people can always reach out to us. We've got tons of free stuff on our website. We put up recipe books, and there's always tons of free content on our Instagram page. So I appreciate you having me out today, Angelo.
Awesome. CypherTalk. RJ, we out.